Hello, and welcome to the Jared Hurst Podcast. This podcast is a place of transformation, growth, spirituality, and connection. So you'll notice, if you happen to be one of the people that likes to watch my audios, that I am not doing video this week. And I think I may make that a permanent change. As much as that is not a really good fit for YouTube, my thought process is more about making things simple and easy to understand. The whole point of my podcast is to share something with people that can make an impact in their lives. If you happen to listen to last week's episode, then you'll know that I'm making some changes. I've done some evaluating, and my main goal at this point is to have a conversational discussion with you, talking about things that have been going on in my own personal life that I feel can be of use and learning to those around me. So, with that in mind, me trying to get the lighting right, me trying to get everything correct, my biggest and most important thing is, one, that I add something of value to your life, and second, that it's something that you can easily understand, the audio. I want the quality to be great. And if I do it this way, I can use my Yeti microphone. I get a better sound quality. I feel like it's more about what the podcast is really about, as much as I think having video has helped me in different ways. So we'll see if I add the video back at some point. Let me know in the comments if you like it better this way, or if you like better when you see me. I'd be interested in some feedback. Okay, so this week what I want to talk with you about is something that I had seen recently in a social media post, but the topic of this week's discussion is distracting ourselves from the life that we want. And I will get to that, but first I want to kind of explain to you how I got to the point where that was our topic. I was watching some social media, and this woman was talking about relationships, and she was talking about loving our lives and different things like that. The way that I'm going to summarize what she was talking about is, until you have a life that you love, you'll use relationships to fill that gap. Now, it wasn't said precisely in that way, but that is the message that I took from this audio clip. Until you have a life that you love, you'll use relationships to fill that gap. And if you think about it, that has a big impact on the way that our life transpires. If we don't feel like we really, truly love our life, and then instead of going out and creating a life that we love, we end up filling that with other people and other things, then we're truly never going to be happy. It actually affects the relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a business relationship. That energy that we put off when we need that person to fill in for the fact that we don't have something we're in love with to go back to. That creates a needy energy that people pick up on. And on the flip side, when you have a life that you love, when you have something that you're truly passionate about and you are very happy with what you've created for yourself, that creates a sense of attraction. People want to be around people that love their life, that have an excitement, an enthusiasm, a authenticity to themselves. All of those things are attraction energy, where on the other side, we have needy energy. So, for one, it's a huge benefit to your life to go out and say, how can I create a life that I love? And so, as I'm thinking about this, I thought this was a really interesting concept, that sometimes have I been using relationships as a way to distract from the fact that I don't love my life when I'm not in a relationship. And I can see some point to that. I can see some times where that has been the truth. I do love my life, but I could do a lot better job of creating the life that I really want to live and not using relationships and friendships as a way to distract myself from taking the action it takes in order to have the life that I truly want. There's times that I hold back from the life that I really want to have because of fear, insecurity, etc. And part of the way that I keep myself from living that life is by distracting myself with other things. So I started thinking about this concept because this is the way that my mind works. And I said to myself, well, does this concept apply to other things? Does this apply to activities and experiences and things that aren't people? Basically, if you look at it, what's going on is in this example where we don't love our lives and we go and we fill it in with somebody else, we're using that person as a coping mechanism. We're using them as a distraction to take away our focus from our lack of happiness. We're not happy, so we end up filling it with something else as a distraction. And anything can be used as a distraction, not just a person. So when I thought about it and I realized that in essence, we're using this person as a distraction or as a substitute for the life that we truly want, then I realized, well, we can also apply that to other things. And I started realizing that it applies to 2 different episodes that I've talked about previously. One thing that I talked about on a previous episode, it was about 1.5 years ago, and it was this concept of building the foundation of our self-esteem on ourselves. What can happen is we have this experience where we allow somebody else to be the foundation of our lives. So, for example, we have somebody in our lives, they believe in us and they encourage us towards our potential. But on the flip side, we have these insecurities and we don't believe in ourselves. So we use that validation, that encouragement from that other person in order to build this foundation of, oh, I can do this. But as soon as that person leaves your life, you're not sure if you can do it anymore. And that loss is more than just losing a person. That loss is losing your cheerleader and the person that made you believe in yourself, which is why we need to build things on ourselves first, because we will never be taken from our lives. If our foundation of our self-esteem is built upon ourselves, then we always know we have ourselves to fall back on, and any other person is simply an addition to our lives. Now, there was another episode where I talked about coping mechanisms and the way that we use different things in order to cope through distraction and through change of our focus. We can use all sorts of things, anything under the sun: golf, sports, movies, reading, pornography, alcohol, anything that we use as a way to numb our pain, to disconnect from the fact that we don't love our lives. Those are coping mechanisms. And as we look at this concept of not having a life that we love, and then using other things to distract ourselves from that fact, that is, in essence, these 2 episodes. One, it's a coping mechanism. It's a distraction technique to keep us from thinking about the fact that we're not in love with our life. And 2, we're building our foundation upon something outside of ourselves. Instead of building a life we love, we build the life we love on our friends, our romantic partner, or these activities and experiences that take away. So the question that comes up in that situation is how do we decide if something is a coping mechanism and a distraction, or is it something legitimate? How do I know whether this thing is one or the other? And the answer to that, I turn to a personal development guru by the name of Earl Nightingale. Now, Earl Nightingale was talking about this long before a lot of us were alive. It was back in the 50s, and he released an audio recording called The Strangest Secret. There's this line in The Strangest Secret that I think applies perfectly to this concept. He says, "A success is someone that is deliberately doing something because that's what they want to do." A success is someone that is deliberately doing something because that is what they want to do. And that right there is the answer to knowing whether or not this person, this event, this activity, this interest is something that is legitimate or a coping mechanism to distract from the fact that we don't love our lives. It is about creating a life by design. It's about having a life that we absolutely love. And that comes from knowing who we want to be and what we want in our lives. Now, something can be both. You can want to have someone in your life because you want to have a partner, or you want to have friends, or you want to have business associates. That is not a bad thing. We should want to have connection and people in our lives. And the people that we want to have in our lives may be completely healthy from the standpoint that they actually have the things that we want. If we look at this person or this activity, and we can look at it and say, this is something that I want in my life. I want to play video games. I want to read books and watch movies. I want a person like this to be in my life. From that standpoint, if we can honestly look in the mirror and say, this is something that we want, and this is exactly the kind of life that we want to have, great, that's legitimate. But it can be both that, and it can be a distraction. And the only way is to look at it and say, is this in the quantity that I want? So if I'm playing sports, or I'm reading books, or watching movies, am I doing this in the amount that I actually want? And it doesn't have to be a specific number. It can be more of a feel. But the point is, am I really happy with how much I'm doing this? If I love video games and I really get a lot of fulfillment out of playing them, I find it very relaxing, I find it very challenging, great. But then when you look at the amount of time that you do it, you realize that it's gone from being something you love to being something that's easier, that distracts you from what you really want. And so in that way, it's both things. And that's the same thing with people. We look at them and we say, man, this is an incredible person. I want them in my life. But am I using them as a way to distract from the fact that I really don't want to face my fears? That I really don't want to face my insecurities? That I don't want to put in all the hard work and the discomfort that it will take to build the life that I truly desire? And if you look at that and you say, yes, this is a distraction and something I want, then just start looking in the mirror and saying, what do I really want and what should it look like? And only you can decide that. The problem is when we start making decisions because of what we think everybody else around us wants, or what we're supposed to want, or what we're supposed to do. A life by design is a life that you love because it's what you want it to be. And that's one of those things that we have to constantly be evaluating. I think it's really easy to get off course and go from living the life that we desire to all of a sudden allowing a few things to creep in and shift what we really want. So it starts by sitting down and really figuring out who you want to be and what you want your life to look like. That way you can see when you are off course. That way you can see when you're not living life in the way that you want to be living it. And that's the only way. Otherwise, how would you possibly know? I think that's the main purpose for today, is just think about your life. Look at what you're creating. Look at the things that you're spending your time on, the things that you're not spending your time on that you wish you were, and just really give yourself an honest feedback about whether or not you're living up to the life you desire. And if not, start making changes. You don't need to beat yourself up over it. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're not strong enough. It just means that we all have moments where we get caught in comfort. We all have moments where we allow fears and insecurities to hold us back. And just reevaluate and move forward. I believe in you. I know you can do it. Until next time, remember that you are not alone.